This is an Irreverent podcast. Check out irreverent.fm for shows from all our friends.
You're listening to a special episode of A Tiny Revolution brought to you by Beloved Arise. Beloved Arise is the first and only LGBTQ youth group for youth of faith in the entire world. And this Friday, June 4th, they're going to be releasing their first album called Serenade, Songs for the Beloved, Volume 1. To learn more about that, please go to belovedarise.org/serenade. And to listen to an exclusive track early, stay tuned after this episode to hear one of those incredible tracks that I swear is going to make you cry. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show. Hello, friends. It's Kevin Garcia, and welcome back to Serenade, the podcast brought to you by Beloved Arise and me, Kevin G, on Tiny Revolution, my podcast that I've been doing for the past 3 years, where we explore ordinary people living revolutionary lives. It was a natural partnership when June Young, who is the executive director of Beloved Arise, when he said, I want to do something big to celebrate queer youth this year in a way that was extensive and expansive and that involved more than just the usual suspects. So I said, let's do a podcast series, obviously, because that is what I do. And so I not only got to listen to the album early, which, you know, influencer perks, you guys. Oh, I'm so sorry. I repent. Anyways, the music is absolutely incredible, and not to mention it features so many of my own personal friends, which I find amazing. And this particular podcast, I'm so excited to share with you because I've known this person for so long and seen how they've grown and really become an incredible queer man. Openly just an incredible, beautiful human. His name is Blake Mundell, and Blake goes by the artist name Courier. And as he's going to discuss in the podcast, he writes songs about other people. He says, "I'm not; these stories aren't mine. I'm just the delivery guy." And today on the podcast, we're going to be discussing the song he wrote called 40 Times. He'll go into the story, but it's a story about a queer youth who's actually part of the Beloved Arise youth group named Alex. And there was a time when Alex was having a really hard time mental health-wise and was having a hard time holding on. And so Alex's mom reached out to Beloved Arise, and there were these amazing 40 letters in this inbox immediately. I don't know why I'm telling you the story earlier. I'm going to ruin it for you, so let me shut up. And I'll just let Blake tell you about himself. This is what I want to say personally. This is my personal introduction to Blake. I've known him for a while as he was becoming himself and learning how to love himself, learning how to come into his own. And it has just been a pleasure to watch him blossom into the beautiful, powerful, creative human that he is. And I'm just so pleased that he's here to share his journey of faith, to share why music like this is important and why we're both so passionate about the work of Beloved Arise. And I know that sounds like such a fucking kitschy thing, but I'm telling you, I love this group so much because, I mean, God, can you imagine what it would have been like to have a youth group that didn't shame you, a youth group that said, no, you can wear that. It doesn't really matter. Boys can, mind their own eyes. There's just something beautiful about an LGBTQ focused youth group that is absolutely beyond anything that I could possibly imagine. And I'm so glad to be a part of this. I'm glad that you're going to listen to a new song. Actually, we're going to play Blake's song 40 times at the end of the podcast, so stay tuned. A couple other things before we jump in. If you're listening to this on the podcast, awesome. You can actually go watch the entire interview on my YouTube page. That's youtube.com/hello. I'm Kevin. That's KEVN. Just check the link in my bio. You can get it there. And if you're watching this on YouTube right now, you can go over to my podcast, A Tiny Revolution, wherever you get your podcasts, and listen to Blake's new tune, 40 Times, coming out this Friday, June 4th. And also, one more thing, please go to the show notes right now, click the link to save the album on Spotify and Apple Music. And then this Friday, we're going to share the hell out of this. You know what I'm saying? Because we want to get this in the ears of as many queer youth of faith as possible. And also, not to mention, if you are queer, if you've got any church hurt, if you've got anything, like, this is going to be so healing for you. Wow, I'm already tearing up thinking about this. Oh, Jesus. So, okay, let me not delay you any further. Let me get into this conversation. This is a beautiful conversation with my friend, Blake Mundell, a.k.a. Courier. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Serenade, a Tiny Revolution collaboration station. We're continuously glowing up, as you can see on this channel, using nice apps. Today, I'm talking with Blake. It's not Mundell, it's Mundell, right?
It is Mundell, you got it right.
It's Mundell, okay.
Mundell, yeah.
Blake A. Mundell, aka Courier, aka one of the most wonderful and delightful humans I've had the pleasure of joining in friendship with over the past couple years. How are you, my sweet friend?
I'm good. That actually means a lot to me. Because, yeah, I think the same of you.
Buddy,
It's been too long since we've just, caught up like this.
I know. I need to call you more randomly at midnight after hours to see if you're awake.
Yeah, I need to answer more randomly, because...
No, well,
unless my calls are planned ahead, it's do I have the social energy? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And that's real. I'm a freak well, let me rephrase it. I'm not a freak. I'm a person who I would just call people randomly because I live by myself. All of when the world was still open, I was traveling all over the place, and that's where I would have my social interactions and friendship times, conferences and concerts and. Mm-hmm. So now, but now that the world's opening back up, I'm very excited about hanging out and getting back in touch with people. So just so you know, I'm coming to your town this summer, so I can't wait to hang. It'll be perfect.
I can't wait either. Yeah, it's all of our muscles, our social muscles have atrophied, so it's we've got to get back in the gym and build them back up.
Ugh.
And it's hard.
And sometimes the gym is going, my friends were do you want to go out dancing tonight? And I'm like, I can technically do that. Joe Biden told me I could. And so we did. We had a great time. But then I also caught myself feeling very young all of a sudden. And in the fact of I don't know if you experience this. When we all have that one friend who's just technically hotter, according to social standards. And when the other boys at the club pay attention to your hot friends and not to you. And then you're like, wait, but what's wrong with me? And I'm like, Kevin, you are 31 years old. What are you doing?
Yes, yeah.
But
no, I'm usually I usually intentionally position myself in the corner, and so normally if people aren't paying attention to me, I'm right where I want to be. So a little different maybe.
Trade places with me because that's what I need. I need to not need that more. But we all have our learning curves, but we're not here to talk about our social anxiety.
That's not what this call is about.
Next time we'll do one. But today,
okay, cool.
I came specifically to talk to you about Serenade, the new album coming out from Beloved Arise, featuring 10 beautiful tracks from queer people of faith and allies, directly sung and written for queer youth of faith the world over. So let's start off with this. Musically, who the hell are you, Blake? What's your deal in this whole Serenade business?
Yeah, that could be a long story, but to sum it up, I've been making music under the name Courier for the past 5-ish years, but I've been playing music my whole life. So one of the songs on the record was written by me in collaboration with one of an amazing human who is now a part of the Beloved Arise community. And so, June actually reached out to me. This was probably February or January of this year, early this year. Mm-hmm. And I told June kind of like what this music thing that I do is all about. So under Courier, I kind of I like to write songs about other people's experiences rather than my own. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
still like release music under my own name, and it's tend to be more folky, just like journaling in music form.
Mm.
But then I've also got Courier, and with Courier, I'll write songs about other people's life stories. So, and that's kind of like the Courier thing. Like I'm just picking up a package from one person and delivering it to the listener, essentially.
I like
Um,
that. I had no idea the name behind the story behind the name. That's cool.
yeah, yeah. I'm just a paper guy. I'm just a mailman. But so with this particular song, I was humbled and honored enough to be the courier for this story, by this young person who came out last year and got, as most of us have experienced, a bunch of ridicule, a bunch of uh, exclusion, from their church community, and went into a dark place and made an attempt at their own life. And then after that, received um, dozens of letters from the Beloved Arise community, as well as other people sharing love and support. And it was kind of mm, a pivot moment in this person's life. It meant a lot to them. So that's what this song is about. And yeah, like you said, like listening through all the songs on the record, like there's hardly one that I can listen to without crying. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes, I
they're
do.
all so
Because when I
powerful.
got the album, when I got the link to listen, I was walking my dog, and I'm talking first 45 seconds into the first song,
Done.
crocodile tears.
Yes. Yeah.
As I'm walking
Same.
around, and people are like, I'm looking like, I'm not crying. I'm not crying.
Hold it together. Yes. No, the same. Same. I was right outside of a coffee shop. Because I'll like call in my order. I know these people at this coffee shop, and I'll just pick up my coffee. And I was like, can I go get my coffee right now, or am I gonna have to wait? Like, am I
Am I gonna have to pull
redo
myself
it?
together? Am I gonna have to, like, breathe into my body and come back?
Yes.
Because
Exactly.
it really, when I was listening to your track, which is called 40 times. 40 times is how we pronounce it, not 40x.
Yep.
I figured as much.
Yeah. I was just trying to be cool. With
I
the little,
think it's cool. I like it. It's, like when somebody just uses the letter U in a song. Where are you now? Like in
Yes. Yep.
it's like
Exactly.
we're
I was
hipsters.
thinking of Justin Bieber. Yeah.
Thank God you didn't appropriate Martin Luther King for your album, though. You know what I'm saying? What?
I know, right?
Different story, different podcast. We love
Yeah, we can
Justin.
go
We
there
pray
different
for him
time,
every
but-
single day. What?
Future youth pastor of Hillsong. Oh,
Oh, Jesus Christ, have mercy on all of their souls. Not that we're here to drag Hillsong or their non-inclusive worship, but
No.
this is something that I'm always here to drag non-inclusive worship. But this
do
is
it.
this is something you and I have talked about. This is kind of a phenomenon, not really a phenomenon, but it is a common occurrence that happens among queer people of faith, is that when people start their coming out process, like, for the song 40 times, we often lose access to our spiritual communities. We lose access, or maybe not even access, but it's just that songs that remind us of our past, like worship songs that were meant to be connecting us to the divine, to ourselves, become trigger points for so many of us. Was that something that happened for you?
Oh yeah. So when you say lose access, I agree with that. We're not just losing physical access. We're not just being exiled from a physical church and a community of people around us. It also creates this trauma where we almost lose access within ourselves. Where if we want to access it again, it's like, oh my gosh, the last time I approached this, I got hurt, and so I don't think I can approach this again. And that's like the shitty part about that is that was not our fault, but now it's our responsibility to manage that, and that's just the weight that we carry forward. But yeah, for me personally, so I got started in the Christian music industry. I came out here to Nashville, is where I live, and was like, I'm going to write worship songs. Like, I
Oh,
had these
yeah.
wide eyes, these rose-colored glasses. I was like, I'm going to lead people closer to Jesus in the music that I write. And in their congregations on Sunday, they're going to feel his love. And got disillusioned of that very quickly once I actually like saw behind the curtain of the business. And I was this was the biggest worship music publishing company at the time. So like, if we want to talk about Hillsong, like all of that was a part of this. And I realized, it's a business like every other business. They've got to turn a buck, and at the end of the day, that's what it's going to be about. But it wasn't
Can we
until
just
much
like
later.
I just want to like highlight that real quick, because that is true of any system within capitalism in general, and
Yeah.
so true especially of the Christian industrial complex. And I say that not just in music, but across the board with the youth programs, missionary stuff, churches, especially mega churches. It's not sometimes a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of times, I don't know the statistics, but what seems to be the trend is that churches are not focusing on actual people, but they're focusing on how do we keep our profits so that we can maintain a building or a program that serves only a very specific kind of person and a very specific kind of economic status, etc. And that's what it is. And so it's like, there's not a surprise here that the music industry, for even the Christian music industry, is still at the end of the day concerned with one thing, and that is how are we going to pay our bills, and not even like our bills, how are we going to make an excess of money off of these people at the bottom?
Absolutely. And then you combine like a business plan, like a marketing scheme with theology. And
Ooh, girl.
like you mesh all of that together, and it's like, now we're getting like cult tactics, to keep people in, keep people coming. And it's like you mix all that together, and that's toxic, But yeah, like I remember this was the last straw for me. There was this one song meeting I went into. I brought this song in. We were going to pitch it to this Christian rock band at the time, and they were like, this was the head of the publishing company at the time, and he was like, I really love the song. He was like, it says the word Jesus too much. And so I was like, okay. I was like, well, maybe, it says it in the choruses, and there are a couple times it says it in the verse. So what if we just like, I'll take it out of the verses. And he was like, I think we need to take it out of the whole song. And so I was like, okay, like in the back of my head, I'm like, y'all are the biggest worship music publisher in the world. Like, why are we taking this word out of your songs? And he's like, I'm just thinking in terms of marketability. It'll go further if we take the word Jesus out. And at that point, I mean, my thoughts and ideas about
Listen,
Jesus and Christianity.
I'm barely.
But at that point,
yeah. Keep going. I'm exasperated by this.
Absolutely. Like at that point, I was just like, why am I here? Like I'm not here to try to like make another dollar for the Christian music industry. Like I said, like I tried to have pretty like pure motives, and it was just like, I just want to lead people to Jesus, and now I have to take Jesus's name out of my songs, So that was kind of the last straw for me at that time.
Right.
But
and it's so interesting how I will say there are many of us who have, had like, very, very earnest faith, I think is how one person described it to me recently. It was like, yeah, like we like so many of us, and this is what I think is so wild, is we get accused all the time from conservatives and folks who are not affirming of LGBTQ folks that the reason that we leave the church is because we have so little faith, that we didn't really believe. But really, a lot of times I found that the people who have left the church are actually the people who are most devout, the people who had a very close relationship with the person of Jesus, in whatever way you can have a relationship with a metaphysical leader.
Yeah. Because Kevin, like what's keeping that head of publishing in the church? The dollar. What brought us out here? Jesus. Right?
My. So hello, somebody.
It's like, it's like y'all are the ones that wanted to take the name of Jesus out of your songs. Like I was the one that that is why it's so insulting when folks are like, you must never have been a Christian. You must never have had true faith. Jesus must have never really took root in your heart. It's like, that's bullshit.
It's like, let me tell you what.
You know it.
It's bullshit, and you know it, especially because it's like, girl, like, I wouldn't be fighting so hard to get you to recognize who I am and what all of this encompasses if it were not so. If it were not so, I wouldn't bother you. You know, I wouldn't go off continuously trying to share my story. And this is also another reason why, like, this album has come together, is because the main narrative for queer people of faith, or just queer people in general, is that spirituality is not for you. That God is not for you. Jesus is not for you. Love is not for you. And we all know that's bullshit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, and that's why I feel I feel so honored to be a part of this project, because it is powerful. Like, I wish that when I was a teenager, or even when I was like a wide-eyed, like, young songwriter in the music industry, if I'd had a record like this, if I'd heard songs like these, and like, oh, there is space for this. I can be earnestly seeking the deepest questions of my faith among people who are, one, also doing that, and two, care about that journey. Yeah, so I mean, I can't wait for people to latch onto this record. So excited about it.
I am too. When you are thinking about, you know, the anyone who's going to listen to this, but especially like queer youth of faith, who honestly, like, what the reason I think you and I are both so passionate about working with and collaborating with Beloved Arise is because it is the only LGBTQ youth group resource of its kind in the world right now, I think, that is equipping young people with space to belong, space to explore these questions, and space to really own their faith. It's one of the reasons that we, you know, volunteer our time, volunteer our energy, and like give to this group. So I want to know, if whoever's going to hear this album, what is one thing you want them to walk away knowing after hearing your track and also hearing this whole album?
I first of all, I think one of the things that art does, and especially the kind that I'm trying to do, right, is I'm trying to take someone's story and give it to somebody else. And I think that act in and of itself, whether we're giving other people our stories or someone else's stories with informed voluntary consent,
Right.
is because when you hear the experience of another person and it matches your own, you feel less alone. And that's what 12-year-old Blake was longing for, was, is there an experience like this out there? Because I'm not seeing it in my immediate purview.
Yes.
So I would hope that they walk away affirmed in their experience of navigating the world from a place that's off the status quo, in a place where the trail is not well worn yet, but there are some of us out here, and so yeah, I would hope that they feel less alone.
Can I tell you, when you said that you're gonna have to walk the trail that's a little less worn, I had chills just run up and down, because that is really what it is. It is, I often liken it to this journey where we have to, like, you know, it's almost like we've been living in this walled city for so long, but then, like, something out in the wilderness, you know, either we're driven out of the city or something in the wilderness calls to us. And because of that, because we go out there, like, the people of the city, like our families of origin, our faith families of origin, say, outside of this line, outside of this place is weeping and gnashing of teeth. Don't go there. God's not out there. And then we have to survive. And at first, sometimes it can be very lonely, because we're just like almost like looking down at our feet until, as we're walking this well-worn path, until, you know, if you let your ears perk up and you hear the music and you realize, oh my God, it's not weeping and gnashing of teeth. It's dancing, and it's joy, and it's connection, and it's family. And at first, yeah, we lose a lot of things as queer folks of faith when we come out. But I will tell you what, and I'm sure that you can say the same thing, I have gained more authentic friendships and relationships as myself, as an openly queer human, than I ever did when I was pretending to be a straight worship leader.
100%. Yeah, same. Yeah, I love that image of the walled off city too, and I'm hoping that this record is like you mentioned the music outside the walls, that
Mm-hmm.
maybe this record is just like a way that we could record that music outside the walls and launch it
Mm-hmm.
into the city
And that's
and just
really
see
what
if
it
like it
is.
lands. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's so cool. I feel like we are on the brink of something very interesting happening within the arts and creative space and faith space, because just this past year, sweet friend Grace Baldridge, who is the musician known as Semler, I think the way that the articles are saying is that Grace Semler game stopped the Christian music industry and got like
Game
a
stopped.
yeah and got a
Yeah, I
queer
love
record
it.
at the top of the Christian charts, and it's just like, oh, this is not only reasonable, but like this can go mainstream. You know, we've got artists like Joy Olatakun, also, who is a queer woman of faith, a queer black woman of faith, who is on Jimmy Fallon and who is going through and like writing music with like people who have incredible platforms. And it just goes to show that, like, you know, what we thought was impossible just even 5 years ago is not only possible, but it's happening. And we get to be a part of that.
Yeah. So in that I hear, most of us when we leave the city walls that you were talking about, I'm carrying your metaphor with
Bring
me,
it. I love it.
is we feel we can be exiled, yes, and most of us are, but it's usually because there is this calling in us to embrace a different narrative, or to at least consider a different narrative than the city folks have been preaching at us all our lives, right? And so I feel that personally, but I also feel that musically because I fought so hard to get into the Christian music industry, and also like, side note, like Grace's interviews with like Christian music industry folks out here, so powerful too. Like if y'all haven't seen those, like go watch those. But with the music thing, it's like I for so long I was like, how do I find my niche? And I would write these songs where I was like, I want to exist inside the Christian music industry, but maybe just adjacent, so that people can feel like this heartfelt sense of exploring and wrestling and sometimes being angry with God. Like I had a song called Psalm 88, and which is like the only song that the psalm literally ends, "Darkness is my closest friend," and I latched onto that song because there is no sort of sunny side to it. And then I realized once coming out that I've been like, this was my niche all along. I was always writing songs for queer Christians because I was writing songs for me.
Woo!
and
Come
and so
through.
now it's like, yeah, like with music too, that was also the calling outside of the city walls, to go and be like, this is where you've always belonged, and now you can actually be here, fully.
That's it. Coming out, being fully yourself. Like, we don't like the opposite is true of what they say. Like you find God when you lose all. It's that weird verse in the Bible where Jesus says, listen, if you want to save your life, you got to lose it. And that's what he's talking about. I think it's not so much like the physical loss of life, which this is I don't know if you've ever had this, but when it's such a manipulative thing that Christians and conservative faith people do. I've had it said to me is like they think because Jesus died on a cross that they understand what it is to give their life, and they will say things like, I would die for you. I love you so much that I would die for you. And I'm like, nobody's asking you to do that. No one's asking you to brutalize your body. In fact, we're asking you to stop this cycle of violence that you think is necessary in order to belong to God. And I think that is something that queer people of faith, queer Christians are really bringing into this conversation, is that what has happened to us and what is happening to queer youth is violence. We're not building space for queer youth. We're not building space for trans youth. In fact, like, in states all across the South right now, there are so many legislative pieces of bullshit that are coming to just ruin a lot of people's lives, ruining a lot of people's experiences, and like making people incredibly unsafe.
Yeah. And I also need to point out, like, so many of those, like, well, some of them are focused on trans youth, but the majority of them, I feel like, at least, like, adversely affect trans youth in particular. And I honestly, like, that's been one of the things that I've been thinking about throughout the course of making this record is I feel the weight of that, of all of the legislation everywhere, because I carry these metaphors forward. In the city, when they hear the music and it interrupts the narrative that's going on, they're going to fight harder to impose their narrative.
Yes.
Right. And so I think that this record, I hope that it is a balm to folks, especially at those intersections.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it will be. I know it has been for me. It is like done a lot of like delicious inner healing on my inner child, who is still very present and still very like, I was telling a couple of my friends, Josh and Adrian, who run the Dirty Rotten Church Kids podcast.
Oh yeah.
I was like, listen, if you were ever a youth group kid, this album is for you. If you were ever in a place where just like you thought that God was this thing that's out there and not this thing that's right here. And yes. I can't wait. It's going to, I really do think that this thing is going to rock some serious things. Like, I'm so glad that we get to be a part of this. So, I want to know where people can find you on the internet, how they can connect with your music, and etc.
Yeah. So you can find my music stuff at therealcourier.com. That's the music site. And really the rest it's just my name on Twitter, Blake Mundell. Instagram is Blake A. Mundell, because Instagram will not let me change it for some reason. But yeah, that's pretty universal across all the other things. TikTok, YouTube, you can find me on those places too.
Does the A stand for awesome? That's so stupid. Oh God! Why do they let me do this?
Awesome would have been a great middle name to have, like in the 90s, but I feel like I would have got real tired of it in my adult life. Like,
yeah,
awesome.
It's like when I jokingly say that I want to give my child the middle name Danger when I'm older. I don't have any children, so maybe my dog's Tippy. Do you want your middle name to be Danger?
Tippy Danger.
Tippy Danger Garcia.
That feels great. Just
Tippy Danger. Come here, girl. You got a bone? You want to see? Everyone, you want to see my dog?
100% want to see my dog.
Come. Oh, little baby.
Oh my, I love those ears.
Tippy Danger Garcia is here to say, go stream Serenade everywhere. Yes. Stream Blake's music. Go to Courier. And you can be an ally too. Wow, she's not very good at writing. Jesus, step your game up, girl.
The voice, though, is amazing.
For a dog, I know.
For a dog, yeah.
Truly
impressive. A dog sing like that.
If you're listening to this back on the podcast and you don't know what's going on, please go to youtube.com/Beloved Arise, or hello, I'm Kevin, Kevin, and you can watch the whole interview with me and Blake back. You can also watch every single video interview right here on YouTube and listen to it on the podcast. Please go share this podcast with someone you think it's going to be helpful. 2, click the link in the description and pre-save the Serenade album. It's coming out on June 5th, and this podcast is dropping a week from tomorrow. So it'll be coming out this week. And when you do that, once you pre-save it, send it to all the queer youth that you know. Send it to anybody, actually. Send it to everyone you know, so that we can really start to get some groundswell around this. We really want this to make a huge impact, reach as many youth as possible, and, low-key change the world. Mild things, right?
Yep, all of it.
You can also connect with me at thekevingarcia.com. My handles are at thekevingarcia, as stated right here. And until next time, everyone, we'll see you. Bye. That was my conversation with Blake Mundell, one of my good Judies. He is such a doll. And if you want to watch this interview if you're one of those people who likes a visualization, and also because you get to see all of our wonderful facial expressions that go along with this, which I like. It feels really real. There's a conversation between me and Blake, this actual conversation, posted to my YouTube page. That's youtube.com/hello, I'm Kevin. Again, everything is in the show notes. If you want to follow Blake, go to instagram.com/Blake A. Mundell. Again, all the links are in the description box because I don't want to spell it out right now. Mostly because I don't want to mess it up, because I'm not really sure how to spell Blake's last name right now, if I'm being honest. Anyways, look up Courier Music all over Spotify, Apple Play, etc. And also click the link to Save Serenade Songs for the Beloved Volume 1 on Spotify and Apple Music, and share this with a queer youth in your life. You know a queer young person, and even if you don't know, just share it with everybody, because the thing is, if we can get this into the hands of everyone, into the ears of more people, this is going to heal so many lives. Can I get a witness? Come on, somebody. Especially the song that you're going to hear. So if you're watching this on YouTube right now, go to my podcast, A Tiny Revolution, listen to the new song. I don't know what else to say, you guys. I'm just really effing pumped about this. This is the best thing to happen, honestly, since Grace dropped the last EP with Semler. Like, this is just like, we're in a season and advent of really, really fucking good music for the people. Anyways. If you like this episode and you want to support more stuff like it, you can go to patreon.com/thekevingarcia and learn about all of those perks. If you want to check out my tour, where I'm coming to about 8 different cities across the summer, please go to thekevingarcia.com/tour and check that out. If you like this kind of stuff and you want to share it just with your friends, or maybe leave us a rating in the iTunes store, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe, all that shit is really helpful. I think that's everything, right? You can follow me across social media at The Kevin Garcia, and my website is thekevingarcia.com. The book is called Bad Theology Kills. If you haven't read it yet, what are you doing? Girl, get your life together. Also, Big Queer Bible Study e-course is just $44 now. We've dropped the price for Pride Month. Who knew? Okay, that's all of my little advertisements to you. I love you so much with all of my heart. You're a blessing. And until next time, this has been another episode of A Tiny Revolution. Take your meds, call your person, shake your ass, listen to some music that makes you feel good inside, like Serenade, obviously. Yeah, I'm done talking. I'll talk to you. Actually, I have another episode coming out probably later today, because we've got contracts to fulfill, bitch. All right. I love you so much. I'll talk to you next week, or later, as I just said. Goodbye.
Doesn't feel like just a week ago. Kept thinking about all I lost coming out to you. Well, I didn't know the moment I opened up my phone is I'd find 40 letters from 40 strangers saying it gets better. I think that's whenever I figured out I'm stronger than I ever thought I could be. Got a dose of my own divinity. Yeah, gonna love who I love, but first I'm gonna love me. 40 times every day I hit a low, but I'm okay. I'm okay. Woke up in a white room, didn't expect to feel like just a month ago. Heard him say you can't keep what God you come out to. But when I'm alone, it's harder to let that notion go. So I remember 40 letters from 40 strangers saying it gets better, and it gets better. Figured out I'm stronger than I ever thought I could be. Got a dose of my own divinity. Yeah, gonna love who I love, but first I'm gonna love me. 40 times every day I hit a low, but I'm okay. I'm okay. Yeah, and you can hang your banner. I'm gonna raise my flag, and we can dance under every color, under every color. 40 times every day I hit a low, but I'm okay. I'm okay. Woke up in a white room, didn't expect to. Doesn't feel like just a year